Hello, 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 hello. Can you hear me okay? Just if anyone in the chat can give me a audio sounds great or audio sounds fine comment in the chat, that would be superb. Thank you. Welcome, everybody. I trust you're having a beautiful, wonderful, amazing day. I am Phil Rice. Welcome to the Phil Rice YouTube channel here well, it's rainy. There's thunder, probably some lightning at some point. Day here in Howick, Auckland, New Zealand. Once again, welcome to the channel. Thank you for joining us here. We're just going to hang out. I got a bunch of stuff to talk about. Going to try a couple other things too, which should be a bit of a hoot. And yeah, well, I used up all my memes the other day, and so I've got to go and do some meme farming and harvesting for another meme show. It's really fun, eh? Like we did 2.5 hours of just scrolling memes and then just talking and answering and questions and things. I really enjoyed it, actually. It was quite fun, like there was a visual thing. We're having a bit of a laugh, the memes sort of, I don't know, just soften the mood a little bit. And so, yeah, if you like the memes, just let me know, throw it into the chat. So, yeah, thanks again, everyone. We're just going to hang out for a bit and see what happens, but I'm going to wait for a few more peeps to rock into the chat, onto the stream. So, yes, welcome. Might just do a bit of a thing right now. Where are we here? Let's go. So this month's, where are we? This one here. Ta-da. So for those of you who have been following the channel for last couple of months, I guess, you know that I am involved with and assisting and helping to promote an upcoming game release from violetflamestudios.co.nz. So I just want to say a big shout out. Thank you to violetflamestudios.co.nz for sponsoring the live streaming software this month. Very helpful, very grateful. That enables me to give you guys lots of goodies to play with. Sorry, that's actually something else. What it does is I get more goodies to play with, so I can up the production level for the live streams and things like that. And I gotta say, live streams are really good fun. You can just sort of show up and talk. Now, yeah, so Violet Flame Studios with their game, which is the Ascension game series, and I have to say, I get a little bit of behind the scenes. Obviously, I assist and contribute to the production, but I get some behind the scenes sort of glimpses as to what's going on. And I have to say, man, this thing is looking pretty dang awesome. Now, what I'll do is I'll just, so the graphics in this game, the models, the gameplay. I tell the bro that's not looking too great on the screen here, but if you like a bit of a game and you're looking for something challenging, this game will be hard. And if you have a little bit of esoteric background and understanding, I would say specifically law correspondence will be very helpful, because you're going to be that will be, there'll be lots of esoteric sort of elements within the game. But if you have, for example, a little bit about planets or the tree of life and just symbolism in general, this game has its own sort of like symbol map and relationship set and associations that you can basically use to solve puzzles. And it's the quality of the game mechanics are quite exceptional too. Like I've played a few games in my time, and I have to say, like when I jumped on the other day and had to play, whew, man, for those of you who've had a play of a game in your time, like an Assassin's Creed or a Red Faction Guerrilla or even The Witcher 3, these notable moments in gaming history, you appreciate stuff that makes a game fun, like mechanics inside the game. It's one thing to run around and bang, bang, and all that sort of thing. I got to say, yeah, combat is, I think it's valuable and important because it helps you to be focused because there's a risk involved. But there's also world exploration, right? And this is why I'm bringing this topic up here, because, there's something about exploring worlds. So I just want to check the chat to make sure you guys can actually hear me. Hello, Luffy. Welcome, brother. Great to see you. Thank you. And Will, hello to you too, sir. Great to see you here. So, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Randy Sanderson. Appreciate that. So yeah, things that make interactive experiences engaging. Now, the other thing too is that, generally speaking, I haven't seen too many positive kind of reflections or perspectives on gaming in regards to meditative practice. I'm fairly sure that there's plenty of Hermetic practitioners that are serious, spiritual practices and that enjoy games, whether it's a game of cards, a game of chess, a game of Ring Around the Rosie, hide and seek, and even digital games, mobile games, these kinds of things. Why do we play these games? There's a kind of a mindlessness, a fun engaging. There's the feeling of achievement, of problem solving. We discover, when new types of games come out, they can be quite novel, and that can give us a little bit of a perk as well. So, this is curious and new and interesting. And this game is going to be, as far as third-person games go, this will be, I'd like to think it'll be notable in the sense it'll be very smooth and fun and easy to play, as well as being quite hard and challenging. But it's also, it's going to have you're going to have to think on the fly. And so when you're exploring the environment, because all the clues will be in the environment, you'll have to be aware. So it's about exploring the space. And we see this in our practices as well. We're discovering the environment. We're discovering how the environment informs our decision making, the opportunities for decision making, and these things. So what I'm doing here is I'm just trying to kind of mesh their, gaming and spiritual practice together, or even just meditation practice, if we want to call it that, and talk about the value of, I think what I'm trying to get to is that there's games, or there's recreational, interactive, digital pastimes, games that are going to be helpful to your practice. And then there's going to be games that are maybe not so helpful. Sadly, there are a few games that deeply approach esoteric themes. This is a great point, in that what we can do is that, we're humans living on this planet in this experience. And, the stuff coming out nowadays, generally speaking, it's not really that kind of inspirational and maybe complimentary. I remember playing some games back in the day when I first started meditating, and you'd play these things and you'd just get all fizzed up and anxious or angsty, or, and you'd go outside and you'd be able to just chill out, right? And there's something about the amount of time we do things, what we are doing, how we are doing it, how are we sitting when we play? Are we using a wireless controller versus a wired controller? Do we really want Bluetooth radiation down below? Are we holding it down by our stuff, depending on, what our sort of understanding of what that might entail? Just putting that out there. There's also, how much of our peripheral vision is taken up by this experience. And, hello from Northeast Florida. Hello from Southeast Auckland, I guess. Welcome. Thank you for joining us, Woo Riders DG. So, as far as things that complement, assist, and inspire us in the form of digital entertainment, interactive products like games, digital games, virtual games, we're kind of looking at all aspects of our life. And if you don't play games, sweet, awesome, but how can we discern what is going to be helpful and what is not going to be helpful? And so there are certainly games out there that have got a lot of esoteric themes in them. But are they teaching us, or is it subliminal? Is it, a great example is Lies of P. If anyone's seen that game, I haven't got it on here, but I should have put it up actually, because there's basically the Masonic compass and square is all throughout that game. Geppetto is the G. He's the architect, and he's making these little humans, or these little puppets or dolls. And you see all of the symbolism all throughout that game. Lies of P. It's like a Dark Souls kind of game. Didn't really get huge acclaim and stuff, but yeah, it's worth checking out if you like exploring, difficult games that have got symbolism in them. Now, as far as Ascension goes, this game's going to be chocker full of stuff, and yeah. So you can go and sign up at the website. They have down the bottom of the pages, they have a subscription newsletter that you can sign up with, and you get exclusive goodies through that. So you can go to their violetflamestudios.co.nz/subscribe to receive the newsletter, get goodies. So thank you to Violet Flame Studios. All right. I got coffee this time. Cheers. I trust you're all well. It's about 20 to 11 here in the morning here in New Zealand. Still going to talk about some game stuff, but we'll come back to that. Yeah, so what's been going on, everyone? How's the world? You guys are all around the world. This is one of the cool things about doing this, is I get to sort of have real-time chats with people in different parts of the world, different backgrounds, different cultural contexts, different viewpoints, worldviews, these types of things. Please throw something into the chat, into the questions, into the live chat, or even just comments. It doesn't have to be a question. Oh yeah, I'm actually going to do this time. You can contact me, info@philrice.co.nz. That's my email. You can contact me for instruction on Reiki, meditation. I'm going to just reopen readings to see how that takes. That's an interesting one, readings, but I'm just going to open it up. So I'm available for a various number of things. I appreciate people's support in that. So you can contact me at info@philrice.co.nz if you'd like to reach out and connect with me. And you can book some time with me, and we can, I can take you through. Especially, I tell you what, if you're a Reiki practicer, if you're curious about Reiki, or if you want to get started in Reiki, it's a bit of a specialty of mine, so you are most welcome to reach out. I haven't got a course as such. All the teaching and training I've done has been over sort of webinars and in person and that. And yeah, but definitely cool to connect with people via the digital interface. And please like, subscribe, and share to spread the love. That is always very helpful. And thank you for those that have. You can support the channel with a monthly YouTube subscription. So you can click the join button down below. Man, this banner takes up a lot of space, doesn't it? And you've got, I think it's like about $5 New Zealand a month or something like that. It's pretty reasonable. You get some cool stickers and emojis, and I'm going to add some other stuff too. I give priority replies to comments. I'm getting more comments, guys. The channel's starting to fatten out a bit, and so it's becoming quite time consuming to get to everyone's comments. I read through them, and I'm grateful. Thank you, everyone. I got some beautiful people on this channel, so wonderful and supportive. I'm really grateful, guys. You guys are really cool. But the other one is that you can also sign up for Substack, which is my newsletter. Not so much a newsletter, it's more like another place where you can come and see this type of footage. It's not live streams at the moment, but all my other stuff's on there. And also, if you get a subscription through there, it's better because they take less of a chunk than, say, YouTube do. And I think I've got it for about the same price. So just to support the channel. I haven't got any exclusives up or anything yet. If you appreciate what I'm up to, what I'm doing, you like the interviews, you like these live streams, you like my videos that I put out when I do put them out, this is an easy way to do it. And yeah, I'll definitely be fattening it out with some exclusives. But yeah, just in the meantime, I've got a couple options if you want to support. The other one is that super chats and super thanks and super stickers and all that sort of stuff's activated. So, you know, something for everyone. If you want to part with some ka-ching ching to support the channel, you've got plenty of options there. So what else we got here? Just welcome everyone. Thanks for hanging out. So what I was going to talk about today was I think something that I'm going to rock into just straight off the bat is I'm going to put this up here and immediate usefulness. There we go. So if you've started on the initiation pathway, you know, maybe you're following the book, maybe you have a teacher who's taking you through their material, their version of this source material. Perhaps you're working through Radar Soul stuff. Maybe you're working through Mark Rasmus's stuff. Maybe you're working through 60 skills. Maybe you're just going hard with the book. Man, however you're doing it, a great way to really sort of infuse your life to make it so that the practice is your life. Because this is, you know, there's a real value in sort of, you know, walking as the practice or living the practice, right? Or practice a life, if you want to put it like that. And, you know, the worldview starts to change as you awaken sense perception. You become more aware of like who you are and who you are not, things that you've taken on. And you can, even though you might still have some old patterns stuck and playing out, you know, there is, you're beginning to see them. And so the frequency in which you get caught up in these things starts to lessen as you go, wait a minute, you catch yourself before you engage these patterns and things, right? Now, to get some, if we want this initiation process to really sort of grok and get traction and, you know, in our lives, so that we're slowly sort of like these two things are we're performing our golden lead type of thing. We're smushing them together, you know, and we're trying to essentially become this new version of ourselves, which is going to have greater sense capacities, and we've got more control, and we're starting to develop a relationship to underlying natural forces, and we're having a very satisfying experience with this as well. You know, we're not just sort of like, yeah, I'm doing magic, and, you know, there's actually stuff happening, because we're like, everyone's talking about this Franz Barton stuff. Let's see what it's like. And you're really putting yourself into it, like I said, via the book itself or through a modern teacher translator. This is a, you know, getting the momentum with the practice can be challenging to start with. And so finding ways to bring it into our everyday lives, because the reality is like, you know, most of us are, you know, pretty busy, and to put in another hour a day, you know, it could be quite challenging. However, you know, those of us who are trying to make this work in our existing situation can find ways of infusing it into everyday life. We call it integrating Hermetics into everyday life. And so one consideration is to look at the exercise you're working on and attempt to identify immediate usefulness with this. Okay, what do I mean by immediate usefulness? Well, these things that we're learning, these skills and these new capacities, whether they're sort of passive or active capacities, you know, they when we become good at stuff, we don't have to think about it as much. You might think about it like, you know, when you get out of the car, you know, the seatbelt's off, you've put it into park, you pulled the handbrake, you've put the steering lock on, and you've got your phone out of the cradle and the keys off, and it's all just like, like, and it's done, and you don't even think about it. It's like autopilot. And so as we become more comfortable with the skill development process, it becomes more natural for us to be able to do these things, because we're learning skills where there's an outcome that comes from these things. We're learning how to sort of, first exercise in the mental body training, we're just looking at things. We're not engaging them. Second exercise in that training, we're learning how to focus on things so that other things don't distract us. Well, that's a good skill, isn't it? And number 3, vacancy of mind. We can also just clear things out of the way just to give our mental body a break. We're claiming back our mental energy rather than, oh, interesting, oh, shiny, oh, everything's a ball of string and you're a kitten. It's this, like this, and you wear yourself out. I mean, at some point, especially in the early stages, if you have you're receding, into the mind, and you're becoming aware of the mental space, and then you're focusing, and then you're emptying it, you may feel layers of fatigue start to release because your mind is not like on. If you're just sitting there in the peacefulness and the stillness, it's not out there. It's not thinking about things. It's not noticing things or taking on work. And so by going through your exercises and considering how they may be immediately useful and valuable to you, that's another good word. Maybe I'll change it to that. Let's just do that for a sec. I'm almost like building my curriculum while I'm talking to you guys. Sometimes this is how you do it. I became a good guitar teacher. Well, I like to think I became a good guitar teacher by teaching guitar. I already kind of knew how to play guitar, and I could kind of show people, but I had to learn, because that's just what you do. You know stuff and you're a good player, but you have to be able to pass this knowledge on. And, you can read a book about it, but it's not until you got the person in front of you. Identifying immediate value and usefulness. Okay, so when you're looking through the exercises, and it's good, just start at the beginning of the book, like most of us do, and jot them out, and then go, okay, well, how is this valuable and useful? Identifying immediate value and usefulness. Yes, that's good. That makes sense. This is it, right? How can we essentially profit and benefit from from investing our time into this practice? And sometimes you might need to have it explained to you. Sometimes you're just going to have to sit with it and just explore it. And, there's a novelty aspect, because it's like, oh, I'm on the path of the magician, or, whatever it is, however you might feel about it, that kind of, gets you a bit enthusiastic or inspires you. But, there's value that you're not going to be able to perceive unless somebody may tell you, which is still their perspective, and also what you discover for yourself, which is going to be the most robust sort of value that you pick up on, because it's personal. It's like, yeah, I know I'm getting value from this because of this. And then you write that down. Wow, this exercise helps my mind rest. This exercise helps me focus and get things done. This exercise, and me. So identifying how it is sort of like you're not just doing something. There's a reason why you're doing something, and if you can identify the why, then it makes the it gives the what some, the reason for why you're even looking at it. Now, oh, it's a bit cold, but it's getting a bit warm, the coffee. But anyway, so one of the reasons why I like to stress this is because we're practical people, right, for the most part. And even though we might be doing this for just our own personal spiritual reasons, that's fine. Some of us may decide that we want to do this to be of service, and we're looking for a really good sort of like dense or clear understanding. We want to know a lot. This is me. I'm an air element person. I really like to know. And so when it comes to, understanding what I'm doing, and that, that helps me, give me a why. It's like, oh, I want to do this because I want to be of greater benefit and value to the greater human family, or just creation in general. And, you know, the other one is that for those of us who embrace reincarnation as part of our worldview, we're also like going, well, I don't want to like put my foot out of place or step out of place and cause myself problems later on if I don't have to. You know, part of this journey is discovering, you know, universal lawfulness and going, okay, cause and effect, it's a thing. If I do this, then this happens. If I do this and that does that, ooh, I don't know if I want to do that, because why impede yourself unnecessarily? And that's when things can become a little tricky as well, because, you know, sometimes there's going to be other people involved. So a good contemplation for your practice, if you're sitting down and you've just done some exercise or you've just whatever and you want to think about it, it's like, well, how is this valuable? It's interesting and I'm just happy to do it because. But further down the track, you may decide that you want to become a teacher, or you're trying to convey even to yourself, you know, the value that you have discovered. It's good to take note of these things. You're obviously going to notice things as you do these exercises and these practices. And then it's like, well, how is that useful and valuable to me personally? And if you're just doing it recreationally, or you're doing it as a side thing, or if it's just like, okay, look, I'm doing this anyway, I've got time put aside, that's fine. But, you know, everyone's a little different. And I've personally found, you know, when I look at the exercises through the pragmatic lens, through the utilitarian lens of like, how does this aid me? I'm a healer. Okay. And so, you know, this book is awesome. You know, this book, the Mark Rasmus material, it's just been an absolute blessing. Helps me to understand and choose my steps, and also takes a bit of the pressure off too, because, you know, the Barden material is, you know, there's the three main books, the practical books, and then he's got Frabato and questions and answers. And then there's the, what was the other book? There's questions and answers. And then there's the Universal Master Key, of course. And, you know, this gives us a good framework. And like any book or set of writings, I know I might cop a bit of flack for this, but you still got to take everything with a grain of sand. Things were sometimes written to be suitable for certain time, places, and situations. So yeah, I'll just leave that one there. I mean, on the last live stream, we talked a little bit about different approaches to the to initiation into Hermetics, but essentially, you know, you've got to come to your own conclusion. One of the most popular sort of arguments against going outside of what the canon suggests, as far as, you know, do this before you do this, before you do this, before you do this. I think some of the people out there who are commenting that, you know, anything apart from the purest approach to it, it's they're almost, I get the feeling they're talking about people are jumping around exercises. Well, you can actually approach it from this, what they call a holographic model, where you're actually doing, you know, you might be doing 3 to 4 hours of practice a day, and you're doing all the exercises, or you're choosing the ones because you understand the cause and effect chain involved. And I think that's, you know, all of these things are worth exploring, because this becomes, you know, this is a big job. You can do a little bit every day, and you can take the long road. Perfect. You know, you got to find your way to it, right? And then some of us are going to go, you know, let's nose to the grindstone, and let's reach those critical masses faster so that we get the skills quicker. You know, 5 minutes a day on one exercise may not get you to where you want to be. 10, 15, 20, or a half hour, you might even sit there until you get it. You might just hammer on one exercise. You know, you might take I actually quite enjoy that. I'll sit with one, you know, if there's one that I'm kind of struggling with, like, and I think one of the common ones that people struggle with is visualization. And I'm no different, you know, over the years, you know, my acoustic visualization is awesome. You know, I've been a musician, and so, you know, I try and get the song out of my head. And not only that, I can pick out the instruments just like I'm wearing a pair of headphones, you know, back when I was doing, you know, oral perception training. But, you know, visualization is something that, you know, I'm certainly a heck of a lot better at than what I used to be, and it continues to be something that I practice. It's also very enjoyable too. You get good at certain parts of it, and then some other, the more advanced aspects of the visualization can take longer. But I mean, Clint Sabon made a beautiful video yesterday where he just says, look, this is a practice for life. I actually see initiation into Hermetics as almost like a lifestyle manual, in a sense as well. You build your day around it, all your food, you get good at your rituals and, how you walk through the world and these types of things. But, sometimes you need to go and do different things in different places because it sort of challenges you a bit. And, it's like the difference of being a muso and playing a gig in front of your friends and family. They're going to generally be pretty supportive, or they're going to also, be the hardest crowd as well. But you might not be as nervous as if you're getting up in front of a bunch of strangers. Or it could be the other way around. If you know the people, you might even be, like a little bit more sort of self-conscious. Everyone's a bit different. But, if you're sitting in your room doing your practices, that's fine. If you're out in nature and there's people walking past and you're a bit nervous about doing Qigong or whatever, man, I tell you, I go down the beach. I tell you, there's not a lot of people doing Qigong and Tai Chi and where I live, even though we have quite a bustling sort of Asian population here. But even, there's a few people doing that, but, I mean, I probably look a bit odd doing it. I mean, it already looks odd anyway, because it's not something that's been prevalent. It's generally like a little sort of English colonial sort of town. It's changed a lot since then, but yeah, I'll just go down the beach and I'll go stand on the water line next to the water, and I'll just tune into the beach and into the water, just breathe into the water and just start doing some Qigong. It's great. And it puts me on the spot a bit too, even meditating out in public. Like, it's funny, like we feel these, like, what are people going to think? Just put yourself through it. Try that out. All right, let's do some questions. Let's see what everyone's talking about. Okay. Oh, hello, Nostalgia. Welcome back. Great to see you. Oh, hello, Heather. Nice to see you, sister. Will's in there. Randy's here. Hey, Randy. Just started reading IIH. The first thing I've noticed is good tools to curb bad habits. Bro, that's it. There's things that you might be doing, or that you might be able to help other people who want to make changes in their life. Sometimes we lack the tools. And yeah, there's some great tools. I mean, just these fellas here, these mala beads, man. Do 108 reps of, I don't know, I am a non-drinker of coffee, not I do not drink coffee. You frame it in the positive. I am a non-drinker of coffee. I am a non-smoker. I am a non-watcher, a non-drinker, a non-this, a non-that. And you just do your 108 reps before bed, first thing in the morning, throughout the day. It's actually a really easy way. You'll just find yourself naturally steering away from some of these old habits. And especially if you use them to plug in like positive things that you want to do. I said this on the last live stream. Great piece of advice. When a man wants to move on from an old habit, give him something that he wants more, that the old thing gets in the way of. And you'll be like, I like doing this more, and I know this is better, and this thing's getting in the way. So if you want to be a marathon runner, but you like smoking cigarettes, but you want to be a marathon runner more, well, there you go. Will, I play Flame Boy and Water Girl with my daughter. We co-op and solve puzzles. Oh, that's so cool, man. Yeah, I think because kids are really into it, and it's hard. If your kids are going to like a public school or something like that, they're going to get full on, generally speaking, full on digital, products and devices interactivity. And so, we recognize the value of setting boundaries for, time spent with these things, because they can become quite all encompassing. However, there's also fun ways to interact. I had a nephew who had a lot of problems as a young fella, and man, this kid was wild. He's an amazing person now. He had a huge transformational moment, but The only time that I noticed it once, we sat down and we were playing some, we're playing like Call of Duty or something, and I struggle with those kinds of games because they're just blatant violence and stuff, and I don't know, I kind of didn't really ever get into that sort of thing. But once he was sitting there and he had the controller and he was playing, it kind of scratched an itch, and then he was kind of relaxed, and then he started opening up and talking to me. It was very interesting. And so over time, we can talk now without that sort of mechanism in place that enables that, because he's been through a change. But I think that, when we're engaged in a social sort of activity with people we care about, or just with friends and family, and there's a relaxing that takes place. We drop our guard, we're having fun. Fun's a great lubricant for all sorts of things, guys, like for receptivity. I mean, if you need to have a challenging conversation with someone, sitting down and just breaking the ice a little bit, or just having some fun and just dropping the rigidity, you might find that creates a good conducive situation to broach a difficult topic. And and there's ways of approaching that too. I've part of what I do and what I've been doing is that I've dealt with a lot of people with strong, they've got strong personalities, and I've had a lot of this in my life. I'm not going to say I'm a mediator as such, but I guess when I'm hanging out with these people, and especially as a muso, and there's a lot of alcohol and all sorts of things going on, late at night at bars and things, or just going around to people's places, and there's a lot of drinking going on. There's a lot of drinking back in the day. I'm so glad I moved on from all that, to be honest. I don't go near it nowadays. But I mean, obviously it's very hard to have to have a constructive conversation on an important topic when someone's been drinking. It's like, I don't know. But when something needs to be approached, there's ways of doing that so that, there doesn't need to be an emotionally heated situation involved. Someone doesn't need to be louder or have, who's winning the pity party here, or this sort of thing. For anyone that I've met that's said they've had a bad time in their life or whatever, and I've met some people that have had shocking, I can't even fathom that they're still even with us, to be honest. But then I've met someone else who's been through something that could be considered largely worse, But I think, as we go through these practices, and we become more objective and focused, more balanced, more harmonious in our own lives, for me, that is where Hermetics and the system of Reiki just beautifully come together, and that we're essentially becoming nodes and emanators of stillness and peacefulness, and we're, for lack of a better term, we're infecting the world with peace and harmony, man. And I don't think there ain't anything wrong with that. Now, this is where the practices become immediately useful. We can start seeing changes happening in our immediate environment. We go, man, since I've been chilling out a bit with these practices, I've noticed that I'm chilled out, and I'm having less kinds of reactions to things, and things that used to really wind me up don't wind me up as much. Get your pen out and write that in your diary, man, because that's when the diary becomes useful. Then you read back and you go, oh yeah, this stuff is doing something valuable for me. I'm not having hugely mystical experiences right now, but I'm discovering value. You're building the chassis and building up the situation. I'm not saying you won't have mystical experiences, because I remember when I first started meditating, it's like I kicked down the door, man. And then, especially with dreams, oh my gosh, dreams are a gateway, man. They're the best. That's why I'm keen to, I think I showed it in my last live stream. I've got a placeholder image with I've got a curriculum, but an approach to sort of dream crafting and dream work that I'm going to share with you guys. I've done a heap of it over the years, and it's a fun thing to share because it's a low-hanging fruit on the tree to have an interesting experiences, really. Barden doesn't really mention it in his book, and there's probably good reason for that, because you can be kind of mesmerized by the dream world and just sort of like, wow, this is out of it, but extracting, genuine value from it. I think, it's good to read about how people have found the functional aspects of dreams, because it's fun to wake up and go, wow, that was a wild dream, and what does that mean? And da 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 da. It's always interesting when it's prophetic, isn't it? That's a good one to write down. I had a dream about 3 things that happened, and then later that day, or all throughout the day, all those 3 things happened. You write that down, you read back at the next day, and you go, wow, yeah, there was something going on. Welcome, everybody. Thanks again for everyone who's joining us here on the Phil Rice YouTube channel. We're just talking about a bunch of stuff. I'm having a coffee. Haven't really had any guests this week. I haven't sort of booked any in. I've sort of got a stack of interviews on the channel, and I've got some people coming up for catch-ups too. I've got Steve Seven, an old friend who's a prolific author, and he's got a lot to say on a lot of stuff. And I think we're going to have a very interesting chat on a certain well-known chap from history that will be probably quite interesting for a lot of people. And I've got I haven't heard back. I know he's busy, but Peter Duchemin, we want to catch up and talk to Dr. Peter a bit about his Kickstarter, but also the tarot, because man, Peter is such a wonderful speaker on the tarot. My gosh. And who else? I think we might have another chat with Mark Stavish coming up. Probably a one-to-one this one, because it's going to be probably more about him and the Internet Institute for Hermetic Studies. But yeah, keen to get Bob back on at some point too, even just have a one-to-one with Bob. He's just such a fountain of knowledge on hermetics and yogic practices and qigong and meditation and so many things. It's always a great pleasure to have Bob on to talk. Oh yes, you can contact me, info@philrice.co.nz, and you can reach out for instruction on Reiki, sessions, meditation, teaching. We can go through some of the IIH stuff. I'm going to offer readings for the moment. I used to offer readings. I kind of went away from them, but I kind of like this audience seems to be, I don't know. I'm open to it anyway. If anyone would like a reading, it's a thing I've done for a long time, but I'll put it out there onto YouTube. And yes, please like, subscribe, and share to spread the love. All right. Oh, yes, of course. And support the channel with a monthly YouTube membership, join button underneath and all that sort of thing. Or go to philrice.substack.com and you can subscribe there. And that's the thing too. Please enter your questions into the live chat. It's currently 11:15 here in New Zealand, so we're still going here. Thank you. It's really fun. There's like 9 people in the room. Other people will watch this. People are joining in on the chat. This is a really fun way to interact with people. I've got to say, I'm just going to do this more. You named it, Luffy. You nailed it there, brother. There is nothing like some coffee and an esoteric chat. Well, thank you for choosing to spend your time with me. I am so grateful, because there are lots of other things you could be doing, and you're choosing to spend it with me, with the rest of the people in here. And for me, it is a great honor to have you here. So thank you so much. So yeah, now where are we going here? Let's move that off there. Right. So one thing I thought I'd do is that we've had a couple of reasonably significant moments in what I would call cultural events in regards to pop culture, in regards specifically to gaming, that have occurred in the last couple of weeks. Now, one of the reasons why they're significant is because one of them relates to Star Wars, and many of us, like, I'm in my sort of mid to late 40s, and I grew up with Star Wars, and I always wanted. I'm going to be a Jedi. That's how it is, man. That's me. I can't help it. It's just a thing. I mean, even on my birthday this year, it came up on my Facebook. Somebody was giving away a Jedi costume, and I was like, "Dude, really? Sweet!" So I went and scored it. Thank you. And so there's a new Star Wars game out, an open world exploration game, which is quite a big deal. It's been in the works for a while. And then on the other hand, we've also got Black Myth Wukong, which is a game which has been in development for a long time. And my gosh, it's exceptional. And both games sort of came out around the same time, and they're both very different games. However, what makes what keeps you engaged in an entertainment medium? Like, okay, you've gone and done 3 or 4 hours of practice. You've mowed the lawns. You've taken the kids out for a run and a walk with the dog. You've done all the housework. It's your weekend. You've done some reading. You've done your practice. You've been out for some exercise and qigong. You've done all the things, and you're like, man, I'm really looking forward to sitting down and playing, doing some like interactive storytelling type thing, like playing a game that challenges me, something I can appreciate. I'm going to explore someone else's world or their art that they've created in a digital sense. And you're like, cool. And then you go and spend, I mean, in the US, it's probably maybe 60 or 70 bucks. In New Zealand, it's usually about 120 bucks. And, this is no small amount of cash for a lot of people. And, so you go and you buy this thing, you sit down, you got your snacks, and you've said to everyone, all right, I'm just going to chill out now. Okay. So unless it's life threatening, please leave me be. So you go and you sit down and you maybe pull the blinds and you put your TV on, you got your controller or whatever, and you're sitting there, and the big opening screen comes up. Let's see what Black Myth Wukong offered us. So this here, let's have a look. Okay, so this is Black Myth Wukong. So I'm not going to play the whole thing, obviously, but let's just watch a little bit of the intro to it. So this is actually one moment past the intro screen. And yeah, let's just have a look. This is the Monkey King, inspired from the old book, Journey to the West. Check out the epicness. Pretty epic start to the game, right? It's like, bang, we're going to start off with like epicness. One dude against giant gods and the army. the impossible odds. He's not backing down, he's remaining defiant. It's almost like the mountain that we face that we could perceive when we see the exercises in the book almost. They can appear intimidating and they're impossible. Monkey who was made Buddha once. Yes, it is. Sheer defiance. There's a dude commenting. So there's skills that you have to learn for this. I'm just gonna Anyway, I just wanted to share a bit of that because, well, my gosh, I mean, the graphics are just insane. There's myth and story behind it, even at this early part. Now, I'm just going to scroll through it here, and let's just watch a little bit of other bits. Yeah. Ooh, I sense a hero's journey coming up. Ooh, look at this. Isn't this beautiful? Isn't that incredible? Listen to that music. Oh my gosh. Stunning. The visuals. Let's see where it goes. Just watch a little bit more. Black cloud, red fire. is gonna like this game's gonna be just full of beautiful references to Chinese mythology and yeah. But I have to, like I say, visually this game is incredibly stunning. You know, and that is obviously one thing that can keep you engaged in an experience. That's a peach, very well modeled peach. Okay. So anyway, so you know the the graphics, there's all obviously the usual gameplay mechanics of upskilling your character and finding treasure and doing all these types of things. But I've watched a reasonable amount of the uh, I've watched a reasonable amount of the actually. Let's see what this one looks like. I've watched a reasonable amount of the gameplay for this. Um, I sat down and watched a chat play probably about an hour and a half of it the other night, couple of hours. Just wanted to chill out after a pretty full on day, and and I wanted to watch it, because I'm looking for interactive storytelling that I can enjoy. I really love big open world, explorable environments with intelligent dialogue, meaningful story with consequences of when you make just decisions, they have consequences in the world. So it's the game is leaning towards some kind of reality, and yet it's based in obviously a fantastic sort of universe and situation. And and obviously playing a game like this, it's essentially, educational as well. There's going to be elements in it that transfer over to actuality, and we can take, there will be many wisdoms along the path, and some of it will be a little more cryptic, I think, too, than others, because sometimes teachings don't translate that well into maybe English, perhaps. Um, Yeah, Skyrim is this is a definitely a more combat focused game than Skyrim. Skyrim's not that strong with sort of like the combat side of things, but as far as the exploration goes, I don't think this is open world as such. It's sort of like it's more like a Dark Souls kind of linear type of game, but um, basically, you're fighting a lot of these incredibly like impossible types of enemies. Some of them are just humongous. But where I'm going with all this, guys, because there's a reason why I'm bringing this game up, is that like this monkey who's setting out from the village to recover these lost relics, you know, we also go on a bit of a hero's journey to discover lost relics and treasures that have been forgotten and scattered into the wilderness. This is a hero's journey in itself, because there will be challenges presented as you upgrade yourself, as you become more aware and more capable, more refined and more empowered. You're going to be presented with challenges to, that you can, overcome. And I think this is where, and I don't want to go into it in too much, but the other game that's just come out that I'm going to bring up for the spec is this is the new Star Wars game, and we'll just watch a little bit of this. I'm not going to start it from the beginning because it's very cinematic to start with. but not as engaging. It's a little bit of a drawn out thing, and this is more for me. This is more about the gameplay, and I'll just play it for a bit and see. Hang on, can I actually? I'm just going to turn the sound down a little bit because there's a guy talking. Okay. No, we'll do that again. I'm just going to do a little bit of commentary while we watch this. So we'll spin that around so that there's less of me and more of the game. Okay, so basically the environments are very compelling. So you can feel yourself drawn in, and the environment is so wonderful for helping to immerse yourself. The music, the music is there is some music in this, but it's a very different kind of game to the other game. And one thing that's noticeable about this game is that the protagonist, or the main your character, pardon me, is like in the previous game. You basically, you don't have character creation. You get given a character to basically step into the shoes of. And it's kind of odd that Star Wars is you know dropped this big, they're touting this as the big thing, and you're not actually playing like a lightsaber wielding force user, or like whether it was a Jedi or a Sith. You're kind of like a just an outlaw, like a smuggler type, and it's a very stealth driven game. Now there's a lot of this is probably more like Skyrim, Will, in that you can just wander around and do what you want, and you can interact, and you can buy stuff, and there's multiple side quests and things like this. There are factions. There's a reputation system, and these things. So it's a whole different thing. But one of the reasons I bring this up is this game here is that after watching a fair amount of it, and I'm not going to say I watched like hours and hours, but I've sat through some of it just watching it. I haven't played any of these, but I'm just watching them, and I have to say that there's a lot of running around. Like, you get to explore the environments. Awesome. There's a couple of fights, and then there's pick an item and then go back, and then you do the same again. They're like fetch missions, and there's not really a lot of deepness to it that I can tell, but it's not as engaging, and it should be, because it's Star Wars. And there's a lot of talk online in the communities about which way these much loved sort of intellectual properties are being steered because of a lot of political insertion. But I'm not going to get into that. What I'm trying to do is just talk about how we can complement our lives with our entertainment. And essentially, we have entertainment that like I said, complements, or it detracts from our practice, and we can make choices. Now, here's the thing, right? So I have a friend, and she loves chocolate. Bless her. Who doesn't like chocolate, right? She was a bit worried because she was just buying cheap supermarket chocolate, and she felt she was just sort of like following her urges, and it was not maybe like the best way to engage in that favorite pastime of hers. And so you could have even said it was a type of a chocolate addiction. And I sort of said to her, I said, look, obviously we don't want to let these things be the rulers over us, just like what we're doing on our own path. We're seeking to discover influences that we're operating, that are driving us, our decision making, and so on. We either neutralize them, or we find out there's something in that thing that is maybe beneficial, but it's wrapped in something that's not so beneficial. And maybe there is something of value in there, and we have to discover that. But first, we have to separate the wheat from the chaff, because there's lots of things out there that are that may appear nutritious, but maybe aren't really. So what I said to my friend was, it's like, well, rather than buying the $5 block of chocolate, why don't you like upgrade the experience? Why not buy the 10, like get the 7 or the 8 or the $10 block of chocolate. Now this is in New Zealand dollars, okay, which is, it's a bit different. But when you upgrade the thing that you currently do, you might be a cigarette smoker. You're like, I just have to give up smoking. I'm not into vaping or anything like that, and I don't know anything about vaping or anything like that, really. But a great way to sort of like move is that you might be like, oh, I don't know if I can ever do it. Well, maybe you get your beads out and you go, okay, I'm going to do my reps every day. I'm a non-smoker while I'm smoking. I've actually got a book down here by a guy. It's a famous give up smoking book by Alan Carr, not Jimmy Carr, the comedian. But basically, he says, read this book and smoke while you're reading this book. Don't try and stop smoking while you're reading the book. Even if you feel like it, you have to keep smoking. In fact, he even says, like, are you smoking right now? Have another smoke. It's quite an interesting approach. So what you're doing is that you're not trying to fight yourself and feel guilty about it or anything like that. You just accept the situation, and then you just, you start taking steps towards reducing the strongness of any type of proclivity or tendency towards it through just using your beads or your method of release or whatever to slowly kind of talk your way out of it or program your way out of it by installing new software. And with the chocolate thing for my friend, she bought some better chocolate, and I said, look, just sit with the chocolate in front of you for 5 minutes, and sniff it and look at it and just let that urge just die down a bit. And hello, Ginger Grin. I love that. Ginger Grin. I love that. If you're talking about the chocolate thing or what I'm talking about, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I because we're trying to help people here, whether we like it or not, we're trying to make the world a better place. I would like to think, even just through our own actions and sort of approaches to life. But, you sit with it, and because there's a level of you, like, if we talk about the carnal body or the physical vital body, right? It's got lower base aspects of it too. Like the dog that will just keep eating. Cats will just eat when they want. They graze, but dogs will just eat till there's nothing left. We're trying to tame that animal, those lower natures, whether it's the lower nature of the astral body, of the mental body, or the physical vital body. We're trying to refine them. And so whatever it is that you do, whether it's gaming, and with the cigarettes thing, I have a friend, he's like, oh man, he says this, because cigarettes are really expensive here in New Zealand. A 50 gram of tobacco, I believe, is 120 New Zealand dollars. I don't know what's like everywhere else, but my gosh, it's very expensive to be a cigarette smoker. They're obviously trying to remove cigarettes, whatever. But what you're doing is that the other option is you can grow your own tobacco or find an organic tobacco farmer or something like this. There's going to be the easy stuff you can get over the counter, but then there's like, you can upgrade the thing that you're doing. Okay. Because that cigarette that you're buying from that shop is just loaded with crap, right? And then there's, what was it? I heard of a brand in the States. I think it's called American Spirit or something like this, or Native Spirit or something. And it's an organic tobacco. And I know a guy who's like a hardcore health nut dude, and he's a smoker. And I'm like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, but we just do we've got a special type of tobacco, and it's it's nowhere near as bad as the other stuff. Now, given it is still, you're inhaling a combusted sort of carcinogen, and so there's going to be a negative sort of payoff for that in some ways, but it's probably going to be by and large a heck of a lot less than anything. Oh, look at this. See, she's walking out and there's a big open vista here. Isn't that cool, right? But yeah, like I said, I've watched a little bit of the gameplay of this, and it's a little bit lackluster for me. Anyway, I'm going to stop that there, guys. Yeah, it's a lot of running around, and I have to say the character model is not that great. I mean, this is a tens of millions or even maybe like $100 million game type of thing. I'm not sure what the cost is, but it doesn't look anywhere near it's nowhere near as beautiful as, say, Black Myth Wukong. but it's not trying to be either, but it's just what it is. But you'd think that for at this stage of the game, like I've got a friend who's a game dev, in fact, and I've got another friend who's a very savvy with sort of digital media and that, and he's saying that this game could have come out on an Xbox 360, which is a couple of gens behind of, you know, the consoles, because it's really not that impressive. But Black Myth Wukong, my gosh, that's a labor of love. So anyway, here I am again. And we'll just pull that down. Cool. Yeah. So I guess that's really just what I wanted to just cover as far as the sort of the pop culture side of things goes, because what do we got here? So happy I quit smoking. Took a while of slowly weaning myself, but it has zero pull. Hey, well done, man. That is so awesome. Kudos to you. Cigarette smoking is one of quite possibly the hardest things to move on from. And especially when everyone else is doing it too. When I quit smoking, when I was living in Wellington quite a few years ago, maybe a couple of decades ago, the first time I really quit, everyone in the office decided to quit. And so it was easy when you've got everyone doing it, piece of cake. Not everyone lasted, but most of us did. I think I stopped for quite a few years at that point, and then I ended up getting, yeah, bro, good shit. True, absolutely. What I found when I started getting my sense of smell back, when people wanted to start hanging out with me, man, I tell you what, cigarettes just stink, eh? You know, I'm sorry if you're a smoker, you smell. And I got to say, those TaylorMades, those packaged ones, oh my gosh, I can't hang it out. Like I struggle to breathe, you know. The rolled up tobacco is obviously not as bad, but it's still, you know, when I say not as bad, it's not as hard. So it's a little bit easier to be around. But reality is, it's still like I never really felt empowered when I was smoking cigarettes, to be fair. You know, I felt like we all know it's bad, but we're doing it anyway, and we're sort of giving into these lesser aspects of ourselves. And I just say to people, I'd be like, oh, I'm just going to go out for a dirty smoke, or I'm going out for a gasper, or it's time for another nail in the coffin, or something like this. I'm like, what the hell are you talking about, man? You're going to be a... Thanks. Awesome. Yeah. I just say to people, look, if you're going to be a smoker, own that shit. Be a damn smoker. Take it all the way. Live it up. If you're kind of like, yeah, I kind of do it, and you're like, you kind of feel ashamed of yourself, that's no way to live. Either do it or don't do it. They're both going to have a set of consequences. But if you're not, you know, you're not living your fullest kind of life in that respect, you're just kind of diminishing yourself. So yeah, that's what I'd say to people. I say, look, man, go be a smoker. Me personally, I probably won't want to hang out with you. Same with drinking. I really struggle hanging out with people who drink, to be honest. I just stopped doing that years ago. It just doesn't do anything for me. And yeah, you know, we're looking at all the aspects of our lives and going, you know, how do we make it so that life is more fulfilling and rich and rewarding, and what is rewarding for us? And we start noticing our aspects of ourselves starting to improve, and we become more empowered and more focused, and with the, you know, the spiritual realm start opening up to us a bit more gradually, perhaps. And you know, we start considering how we step, how we place our feet, how we talk to people, how we interact, the decisions that we make. Are we in alignment with what we know to be true? Are we saying this but doing this? You know, is our public face reflective of our private face? This isn't one to consider. You know, you don't have to share yourself with about yourself with everyone and everything all the time. There's some things that, you know, only the inner circle will ever know, and there's some things that even they won't know, right? But, you know, we see this with, you know, for example, politicians. You know, when they're in front of the camera, you know, they're completely different from when you've got them in person. I mean, most of us can agree with that. It's like, you know, they're acting, you know, and I just find just politics at large just completely disingenuous. And that's why I just don't get involved. I'm apolitical, happy to be that way. And yeah, that is my life. But finding, meaningful enterprise and discovering the value of what we are doing and how we can upgrade it to be more conducive to better outcomes. That's what I'm saying here, and that includes gaming. There's some fantastic games out there to get immersed in, that are, visually stunning, and the music's incredible, and the stories are really engaging and enthralling. And there's certainly ones that are not like that. And getting that balance, tell me in the chat, what's your preference, when you want to get lost in a game? I'm not talking about social gaming where you've got people around and you're all having a turn. When you immerse yourself into a game or something like this, what does it for you? Oh, here we go. Frazzle Bacon. Red Dead Redemption 2. I haven't played that, but I've heard it is next level. I've seen the graphics. It looks incredible. And there's multiple ways of interacting with the world. And there's consequences and things of this nature too. So yeah, great mention. And that's obviously a Rockstar game, I believe. The guys that made GTA, which is like, it's yeah, that's a game. That's a whole other topic, isn't it? But yeah, that one was very popular. So, choosing our entertainment. I'm really enjoying watching Babylon 5 at the moment. It's a 90s sci-fi TV show that's somewhat similar to, Star Trek Deep Space Nine. It's a space station in the middle of nowhere kind of thing. And they've got all these, it's a meeting place for alien races, and they're doing it to try and keep the peace. And yeah, and it's a great story. It's a five season kind of show, and there's lots of spin-offs too. But there's the characters and the acting is great. The story arcs are great. Like any show, it starts off a little bit bumpy. They're trying to find their feet. The first season of Star Trek: The Next Generation was a bit like that. You could be said about a lot of shows. They brought in a new character, a new main character in the second season of Babylon 5. Bruce Boxleitner, who, for those of you who remember who he is. He was from Scarecrow and Mrs. King, and he was also in the original Tron movie. And yeah, he takes a while to find his feet. But like I said, there's this incredible overarching story arc. There's the episodic stories, and then there's the character arcs. And so there's arcs and arcs and arcs, but there's this big overall arc, and there's this ancient adversary that comes back to life, and it's incredible. It's such a big story, and it looks impossible, almost like they're up against impossible odds, even with everyone potentially on the same page. Like they just don't maybe have a hope in heck. Pardon me. So there's like real tension. There's skin in the game here. Yeah, Elden Ring. Yeah, so I've got Elden Ring, and when it wants to work, I've got a day one Xbox. My brother bought back in the day, and we've had to get it fixed. We fixed it ourselves. Good thing he knows what he's doing. But yeah, Elden Ring's fun. One thing, the world's great. You can explore it. There's heaps of different things. It's very challenging. It's a little bit like Black Myth Wukong, and that there's a lot of like mini bosses in it, and there's lots of rewards. It's a very long game. Oh my gosh. And there's so many secrets in it. Not the kind of secrets I was expecting, truthfully, too. Like, it's quite vague as well. It's like Dark Souls. It's quite vague. It's not as hard as Dark Souls, I'd say, but it's got its own kind of hard nature to it. And you're on a horse, and there's crafting, and there's a jump button. It's like Dark Souls with a jump button. But as far as like the hero's journey goes, you're in a very challenging situation. Basically, the odds are against you, and you're going to get your ass whipped quite a few times. But the cool thing about that series of games, Elden Ring, Dark Souls, these types of games, is they're very challenging. They're not just button mashing like, you actually have to pay attention to what's going on, because it's very easy for you to die in the game. You have to remain focused and conscious. And that's why I like these games, because it's a meditative practice. You've got to stay on task. I'd rather level up myself in real life instead of a character in a game. Absolutely, absolutely. And this concept of counterfeit achievement, where if there's not something directly useful or relatable that we can draw from an experience, whatever it is that we do, we have to measure that up, because you could pump like 100 hours into a game. You could put 100 hours into your Hermetics practice, into your Tai Chi. I've got a friend who is a hardcore gamer, and he plays it like I couldn't play that much. But even Philip Harris Smith, a notable Hermetics commentator, blogger, alchemist, and that, he likes to chill out with a bit of Xbox too. That's cool. I guess we all have our sort of mindless activities, and maybe we don't need to put that much thought into them, because we just want something fun and mindless to do. But absolutely, I mean, some people are going to be looking at this idea of gaming and go, yeah, nah. But I think too, like with the Ascension game that my friend and colleague John is building with Violet Flame Studios, it's got there's a deeper reason behind it, and that is to share esoteric knowledge and also develop sort of cognitive functions. Basically, gaming is so massive. There's lots of people who are caught up in the gaming world, and they're playing things that are maybe detrimenting their life. And I'll say somewhat analogously, like Jesus went out to the places, and he'd be trying to relate to people and connect with people in those places. They didn't necessarily, they did come to him, but he also went out to them. So, oh, dude, yeah, violin. That's a fantastic challenge. Like you could use that. That's essentially like the acoustic training for initiation into Hermetics, where you're learning to discern, between very small movement increments, because obviously, like on a guitar, we have these frets. So if you to get a sound, you put your finger on this one. To make the next sound, you put your next finger down. And the next one, you can hear the scale. Okay? On a violin, you don't have those. You don't have frets. You have to use your ears. And that will train you to focus quite substantially. Now, and skateboarding will train your balance. I mean, that's great for Qigong. So, or just, these things that we do in the real world. And you're right, gaming has some benefits. Absolutely. There are recognized benefits from sitting down, but how can you take that? There's an existing group of people that enjoy it. And it's like, well, how do you take it to the next level? How's your posture when you're sitting? Are you eating while you're doing it? Like, are you focused? Are you treating it as a development set? So anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit about that, because that's a reality of our time. There's a lot of people who are gamers, who are on the initiation pathway. And what you may find, guys, is that, as you do these practices and as you come to love them and discover the value in them and the enjoyment, like I said, other things will just naturally start to fade away and diminish. And there ain't nothing wrong with that, One thing I found personally as a guitar teacher working with young kids, because I used to playing on computers and things as a young kid and learning about computers and playing games and things, was that when I came to teaching kids as a guitar teacher, they were there for guitar lesson, but one way to build rapport was to talk to them on a level and relate to them in a way that they can, that they know about, So I could say, hey, I see the new Banjo-Kazooie games out, or, oh, yeah. Don't get them started on Fortnite or Minecraft, right? But what it did was it just kind of broke the ice, and it's like, oh, okay, Phil knows some stuff. He's cool, but the only problem is that you have to make sure that you steer their attention back to the job at hand. But you can use pop culture references to sort of help, as part of your metaphor or analogy toolkit to help to relate to people. And so, there's obviously movies and TV shows and things like that. I'm very selective about, what I watch and engage in personally, because I have to be fair. I just can't sit in front of a TV. I stopped doing that years ago. In fact, I don't watch free to air television. What's a good resource to learn Qigong? Well, Will said it. Mark Rasmus and Chi Skills. They're both on YouTube. Chi Skills Armand, he's been on the Bard In it's on my channel here as well. He studied and worked under Mark Rasmus, and so well, those are two fantastic recommendations. Thank you for that. And both very generous. Both of their channels are very generous. And so, Frazzle, I suggest looking up Build the Ball. Build the Ball. It's a classic Qigong exercise. And Mark Rasmus has got a couple of videos. I know Chi Skills has got one there too. And that's the place to start. So, now, once again, I am Phil Rice. Welcome to the Phil Rice YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us here on this. It's a bit grey out there, I have to say, but that's okay. I'm streaming live from Howick, Auckland, New Zealand. I am available for instruction and treatment for Reiki. I can give meditation instruction as well. I can help you get started on your Hermetics journey. And I also offer readings for those who are interested as well. It's not something I usually advertise a lot of, to be fair. But there it is. You can reach out to me and book a session with me if you want to train. Now, my Reiki, it includes Qigong and Hermetics as well. It kind of has to. So, I guess where I'm going with the Reiki is that Reiki nowadays it's a bit it's like that. What do they call it? The telephone game. Over time, it sort of changes, and I think people probably in the Tai Chi and the Qigong world will probably comment on this as well, is that over time, practices can become diluted because people go, you don't need to do that. Or maybe someone doesn't understand why they're doing something, and so they just leave it out. And these are critical things, but, when you line up your practice with, say, the Initiation into Hermetics program, and you can see how they relate to each other. And that's the same with Reiki. Reiki has its own Qigong. It has its own meditation practices. You don't often hear about that. I often hear people, because Reiki is kind of being generally considered to be quite a bit new age. And, everyone, will talk about it and talk about meditation. But a lot of people I've talked to who do meditation, they're just kind of sitting there with their eyes closed or just resting and relaxing, which is fine. But many of the practices are actually you're actively like performing an activity to develop a skill or a capacity within. And so this is kind of what I'm doing with my Reiki is that after years of searching, of just researching the materials from the best sources I can find and comparative analysis with many other sorts of forms of energy healing. Now, what I've found is that, getting relief from physical issues and emotional and even mental issues, whatever Reiki can offer, is really kind of just you kind of help. You're actually like a stillness practicer. If you can find a really good Reiki practicer, someone who does active stillness practice, that can help you greatly with your Hermetics journey, especially if you're coming from a background of, say, being an angry person or being really worried and stressed out. But you find the Hermetic path, and then you're looking at the black and white soul mirror and going, oh my gosh, I'm never going to get there. Reiki's a great place to start, just to sort of, it's a pocket-sized, basically, system at the early stages that you can, use to sort of like smooth off the quite a few spikes in your astral personality. And it can help get you started well, One difference between, say, Initiation into Hermetics versus Reiki is that Initiation into Hermetics is like a textbook on the meditation process. It's very, very detailed, and also not so much as well. Whereas Reiki, it's like a tiny little sort of thing of, but it's more compound exercises. So an Initiation into Hermetics We're doing what you might call we're working on isolated muscle groups, or isolated muscles, I should say. And Reiki, we're working on muscle groups. And Reiki has kind of, the framework is sort of, there's gaps and things. And so, yeah, I think as far as like, what I'm offering here is that if you would like something just to sort of help round you out a little bit, if you want to get started with Hermetics, because you're going to start playing with some powerful things, and it does become very obvious when things don't go right. I have to say, I'm just grateful for all of those people throughout history that were the first ones to try foods. Can we eat this? Okay, let's draw straws. All right. Sorry, Kev. It's or Ralph or Joan or whatever. Looks like you got the short straw. Let's find out if we can eat this. A lot of people have gone through some pain to bring us these exercises. So, but yeah, I've just found Reiki to be a really great starting spot, especially with the precepts. If you think about them, do not anger. Well, that's a good one. You think about how many other things could be related that could be born from anger. The next one is do not fear or do not worry. How many things come from that, spawn from that? Be grateful. Be true to yourself and true to your way. If you're being honest with yourself, I'll just go back, actually, gratitude. So gratitude can result in a type of contentment as well. And if you're not content, your parts of you are reaching out in the world looking to scratch itches that you think you actually need, but you don't. But if you're just grateful for what you've got and you become content in that, suddenly you're pulling those little seekers back into yourself, and they're not expending energy. I tell you what, when you start doing especially the soul body training and initiation into Hermetics, you'll find you'll be getting all of this energy back. The same with the mental training, actually, to be fair. Like, you're basically training these two bodies especially to stop working unnecessarily. It's like unproductive labor. You start to become the master rather than all these sort of patterns of unconscious seeking that are unnecessary going out there. And because each one of these little tendrils that goes out that's got a curiosity it's exploring, whether it's a thought or a feeling, or something pops up and you have a reaction to it and you overthink it or think it, that little tendril or energy's going out there, and it's pulling from you. And so these things are going to help you essentially refine your energy deployment. Okay, and please like and subscribe and share. I appreciate you guys. I really do. I hope you're enjoying this, what I'm doing here. I'm doing something a bit different on the channel now. I generally was doing a whole bunch of interviews, but now I just want to get on and talk some stuff. Please support the channel. You can get a monthly YouTube membership. It's like $5 a month. I might even put $1 one up, because then you'll be like, oh man, the bro only wants $1. How can I need quite a few people to make that one. Well, you go to philricesubstack.com. That's a good one too. Please enter your questions into the live chat, your comments, whatever's. And speaking of which, let's go to the chat. Yeah, I think too, Will, that's a great point. Finding people to, because you can learn stuff online, but when you go out into the world and you pressure test it, essentially, this is where it's at. And if you can find some people that are already kind of halfway maybe open to it, then, you're going to have more cooperative types, and that is helpful. And so, you might be into hardcore esoteric Qigong and Hermetics and that, but your local Tai Chi class is probably not into that. In fact, they may not even really be aware of Fa Jin or, Ling Kong Jing or any of these types of things. Tai Chi has Qigong in it as well. Yes, it does. And the good ones will, and the good ones will, teach energy cultivation. It's funny, pardon me, listening, Qigong can be, you can turn your Qigong into a type of Tai Chi too. And it's funny, they're not mutually exclusive of each other, but I kind of see Tai Chi almost as like it's like body conditioning. It is a martial art form as well, can be Tai Chi Chuan, but then it's also like Tai Chi is just for your health and that, and but it's almost like an application of Tai Chi of Qigong. Yeah, I still need to work on this. It's funny because they sound similar. I know that the word Qi, and the Qi in Tai Chi is not the same as the Qi in Qigong. In Qigong, the Qi means energy, and like Qigong means energy work, and Tai Chi, it's more what is it? The great polarity, or the it escapes me. There's another way of putting it. Maybe Will can tell us. He's a Tai Chi guy. Voluntary de-occultist Jason Ness. Gratitude is my attitude. Love it. Love it. That's it, my man. And I love that de-occultist too. I think that I heard a great term the other day, which was mystery monger, where basically like people are presenting mysterious things, which is kind of fun and interesting. And then it doesn't really go anywhere. And those of us who've been exploring the spiritual community online for a while will notice that there's these large groups of like mesmerizingly tantalizing novel things, but it doesn't really go anywhere. At some point I just became dissatisfied. Yeah, demystifying the occult. There's a great series done by a guy, Mark Passio. He's worth checking out if you haven't come across Mark Passio. He's a pretty full-on dude, but he's an excellent explainer. And if you're wanting to become a teacher of occult or esoteric matters in relationship to how it sort of works on the planet here, I got the de-occultist name from Mark Passio. Perfect. There we go. Yeah. Mark's been an important person in my education. Even as a teacher, he's just an excellent explainer. He's well-read. Yeah. It's funny, actually, like Passio's like, he's like one of the most passionate. It's like Passio is, literally short for passionate. The supreme ultimate. Yes. So Tai Chi, the supreme ultimate. So yeah, thank you for that. Okay. How can we hold wishes and desires in our center without having little tendrils spiraling out to search? Okay. So Heather, thank you. Great question. Now, this is why in the early stages of initiation in Hermetics, in fact, the second exercise that you do in the mental body training is single-pointed concentration, or single focus. Basically taking a thing, gripping onto it like a pit bull, as one of the teachers says, and not letting it go. And that's going to train you so that you don't let your mind wander. Because one of the things is, especially in the later practices, when you're starting to play with bigger toys, you don't want your mind to wander. You want to be able to stay on point, because as soon as your mind wanders, before you've finished the operation, so to speak, you could do yourself a mischief. And so being able to stay single pointed is how you infuse and are able to amplify intensity into what you're doing, because you can, you're not splitting your awareness unless you intend to. And so we're schooling the mind to do what it is that we wish it to do and to stay on task. It's like this: if you're operating heavy machinery, and there's other people involved, like if you're on a digger and, like scooping up earth and moving it around and dumping into a truck, you don't want to be looking at your phone while you're doing this, right? You want to be focused on the job, because you could hurt someone or yourself or cause a big problem, man. All right. So when it comes to holding wishes and desires, whether you're putting it into food or you're seeking to impress it upon yourself, maybe you build a ball around you and then flood it with vital force and then pack it in. You accumulate it, condense it. So you've got a really thick electromagnetic fluid, and then you impregnate it with a wish desire, and then you want that to seep in, and then you collapse that into you, and just almost like force infuse it into your being so that you can feel it. You got to stay focused, because essentially it could, you're trying to maintain this this feeling sense and impregnate yourself with it. So now, let's see. I'm currently working on making a big transition and putting my feelers out, but also want to keep my energy in my central furnace. Oh, okay. Right. So when I'm talking about the tendrils, I'm just talking about an untamed, unruly sort of like aspect of yourself that's like a little child that is exploring, but it's using lots of energy that maybe you don't want it to. When you're talking about putting your feelers out there to see what's out there, to make, you know what, I'm just going to put this out into the world and see what comes back. That's probably a little bit of something else, because I think too that when you set the intention of, I'm just going to put it out there, part of that process could be that you go, you know what, I've got this thing, I'm going to visualize a thing, and then I'm just going to put it out into the world. Then you just got to let it go and not think about it. It's out there doing this thing. We do that with the elementary and the elemental training, you know, creating elementals and things like that. You don't think about it. You just let it, you know, you just trust that everything is good to go. And yeah, so hopefully that sort of separates it there and delineates it. But, you know, when you're trying to infuse something, you want to be focused on it, you know, and don't get me wrong, like this is a gradual process, because I use this term a lot. You're in the soup. I've got to stop wobbling the desk. When you're in the soup, awesome. Imagine you're in a river, and your friend up on the riverbank is dry, and you're slashing around there, and you're like going, "Oh, it's great, yeah." It's like, "Oh, how did you get up there?" And then he pulls you up, or you climb out, and you're like, "Oh, I didn't even know I was in the river." He's like, "Yeah." And then it turns out that you're both in another river, but you didn't know because it's just your normal sort of way of being. And then there's another bro standing up on the riverbank going, "You fellas know you're in a river?" "Oh, no." It's probably maybe not the best example, but the soup is a good one, because, you know, we only know what we know. And as we recede back into the mental body, our mind intent, our yi, our immortal spirit, which occupies our mental body or our astral or physical body, we learn to move between them, to dwell in these very different bodies, to observe their operation, how they are functioning, how they are misfiring and maybe causing us problems or doing things that we would rather they didn't do. You know, as we recede back, we can sometimes jar things loose, things that have been tacked on that we thought were part of us and completely natural and normal. And it's like, oh, that wasn't actually part of me. Where did that come from? And it turns out that that was something that you picked up from someone, an attitude, a behavior, a pattern, a thing. And, you know, and as you go through this just pure observation process, it becomes very clear that, you know, this road back up to, you know, the road home, it's and I like this quote from the Buddha, you know, it's the release of attachment, aversion, and delusion. And maybe not everyone wants to just completely dissolve back into the one, although apparently that's all of us at some point. But I don't know, we got a lot of, I'd like to think we have a lot of say in that. You know, we can either submit to divine providence, or we can seek to be an independent agent, and then there's a little bit of play in that too. And but you know, it's funny when you think you're somewhere and then you find out that where you are is still a long way. And you know, don't lose heart. You know, when you make an achievement, when you pass a milestone, and you feel a sense of achievement, be mindful of dwelling in success or failure. You know, they're very handy indicators of your progression. You know, they're both valuable, you know, but it's important, I think, to celebrate successes and to acknowledge failure or, you know, lack of success in a sense. But, you know, dwelling there too long, you know, it's like, what is it? They talk about being a tent pitcher. You're only climbing halfway up the mountain. And the only two faults on the path are not starting and not going the whole way. It's funny. Yeah, we're both pulling from the same lexicon, aren't we, Mr. Jason Ness? Pretty funny. There we go. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I got that one from Passio as well. There are only two mistakes that one can make on the path: not starting and not going all the way. And yeah, that's a real thing. That's a real thing, man. You know, once you get started, especially with this initiation into Hermetics process or a self-improvement pathway, you know, sometimes it's good to give yourself a reminder. I'll go back and eat things that I stopped doing to give myself a reminder of like, oh yeah, that's right. That's why I don't do that, or eat that, or hang out with those people, or do that activity. Oh yeah. And you pay the price. But I tell you what, it gives you a very, very clear picture of like, okay, that thing that I just did that reminded me of how it made me feel, I'm going this way hard. I'm doing a 180 from that. And they talk about it as being a type of a thrust block. Like when swimmers push themselves away from the wall, you push yourself away from that thing. It gives you a clear, you know, not that way, 180, going the opposite way. It's very helpful, you know, but be conscious of things that, you know, unnecessarily disadvantage you too, because, you know, if something really messes you up, like, you know, late nights for me, that can be a challenge. You know, like late, like 12, 1, 2, I don't know. I used to do 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning sessions and things like that. Now I'm better off just going to bed like 9 o'clock and then getting up at like 3 or 4 and meditating for a couple of hours, and then maybe going back to bed and then getting up, or even staying up and seeing, you know, whatever. Just depends on what I've got on for the day and the work and that. But you know, you become acutely aware of how activities and interactions with things either support or impede you in your progress. And you know, if you find that things are getting in the way of your regular practices, those are a good thing to sort of really focus in on. And yeah, you know, it comes down to, and we talked about this on one of the live panels, the monthly live panels, the barred in. We talked about, you know, when you're surrounded by people who don't get it, who, you know, it's no different than if you're, you know, like an elite athlete or someone, you know, who has to do something every day for whatever reason because you've got a goal. You know, you're going to have to put some things aside. You know, when I was playing in a band, you know, I've always been single. So, you know, when the guys and the other people in the band started having kids and that really changed. But those who were, you know, those who had understanding partners and wives, you know, they wanted to be professional musos, or they wanted to, this was a serious, important thing for them. It brought them a lot of joy, and they were really focused. And it was like that, you know, birthdays and family events and things were put aside because this thing took priority. And that might sound pretty harsh, but when you're trying to make it as a muso, and you're trying to get 5 people together every week to keep the momentum up of practice, there's going to be sacrifices, and things can be worked around. And you know, your attitude towards your practice will make the world a difference. And looking forward to your practice, and I think complementing it, I have to say, like discovering the Mark Rasmus stuff, which got me into Baden. That's how I found Baden, because he's got to focus on Qigong, and the Qigong stuff he does is the best, man. It's the coolest. And I've looked at a lot of Qigong stuff over time, and there's a lot of theory. I came across all the hollow practices and that, but I didn't really have it put together for me like Mark did. And it was just like the light bulb went on, and Bob from 60 Skills calls building the ball the gateway drug. You know, when you practice building the ball, once you can get that feeling between your hands, and then you learn how to move it around, and then put yourself in it and feel your body with it, and then put yourself in a bubble of it, and then release into the field, change it into astral chi, change it into the mental body, mental energy, move up into akasha, etc., etc. You've got a very clear pathway towards unfolding attainment that's very tangible, palpable, satisfying. It's very Moorish. In other words, you're like, oh, this is cool. Where does this go? You know, and there's lots to explore. And because it's based on feeling, everyone can generally do this pretty much straight away. And it's people have got different theories as to why. If you look at your other sense gates, because the book Initiation to Hermetics is really to start with, is about refining and awakening the sense gates and exploring, their other functions. And when you're able to explore it in a very fun and satisfying way, like with the Qigong that Mark Rasmus teaches, it's like, hey, wait a minute, there's something going on here. Because I was playing with this feeling for years, going, man, there must be something to this. Because, even when I did one of my Reiki courses and we got introduced, well, I'd already known about it, but we got told about this. And it's like, yeah. And then it was just kind of like, well, that's that. Now we're moving on. It's like, oh, is that it? Oh, okay. The energy's there. Well, it turns out there are cultivation pathways. And cultivation is largely left out of Reiki. It's unfortunate. Alrighty, guys. Well, we're coming up to the 2 hour sort of mark, and I will probably disappear in about 10 minutes. So if anyone's got any questions, please enter them into the live chat. Please remember you can like, subscribe, and share and all that sort of stuff. Oh man, I think I'll get like something to do all this, because having to say this all the time, you guys know what's up. But honestly, when I started mentioning things like, subscribe, and share inside the streams, I started getting more subscriptions, more likes, and more shares. So that's why I do it, because you get caught up in what's going on. You don't, I know some of you guys would be like, oh yeah, cool. Thanks for the reminder. That's cool. And like I said, you can contact me directly, info@philrice.co.nz for instruction and sessions for Reiki, meditation, and readings. I'm going to be sharing a little bit more via my Substack on Reiki. So you can get a free subscription on my Substack. There's a paid one too, but there's no perks at the moment. If you buy a month or a year's worth of subscription on my Substack, basically that supports the channel, and I'm very grateful. Thank you. The same with the YouTube here. YouTube take a bit more of a chunk, and they give you some other types of perks too. But, go sign up for the Substack for a free subscription. Makes my numbers look good. You'll get updates directly into your inbox. And considering what's happening at the moment in the world as far as social media platforms goes, we know that the Telegram founder recently got arrested by the French authorities. We don't know where that's going. Signal's apparently next on the hit list as well. If for any reason they suddenly decide we don't want Hermetic people talking on YouTube and they just cancel everyone, all the work that I've put in to build up a follower base, I can't take that with me. But on Substack, I get an email list, so we can stay in touch, guys. Should anything weird and wonky happen, I'm just saying, if you like what I do and you want to, help me out, and, YouTube and Facebook and Instagram are all like, mainstream pedestrian types of like, everyone goes there and it's like easy and all that. But they also have a lot of power and a lot of say. And, it can be quite challenging sometimes to keep abreast of what they say is okay and what is not okay. And these other platforms, which are reasonably robust, like Substack, I would like to think they're great alternatives and worth checking out, I think. And for me too, I'd like to encourage people to explore other platforms as well, because you might be missing out on something. You might be missing out on creators. I found a lot of great creators on Substack. Man, some of the saltiest peeps on there talking about, stuff that's important to me. You can't find this stuff on YouTube. And, some of the best teachers are not on here. Oh, I love that, Heather. Just made a chi ball. As I'm squeezing it, there is a pressure in the middle of my forehead as I squeeze in rhythm. Oh, that's good. Hey, so here's a fun one. Okay, so if you're building the ball, right, and what you can do is if you're standing, right, if you're in I'll see if I can get back a little bit here. Okay, so you guys can see me and hear me okay, right? I'll have to set up a bit of a bigger studio setup. So basically, I can't get back any further. Oh, shit, there's my guitar. Okay, so I'm building the ball, and I'm standing up, and I've unlocked my knees, and I've got my feet a shoulder width apart, and I'm just relaxed standing, okay? And if I jump up and I land down, my feet are just where they are, okay? And I'm building the ball, and I'm feeling that pressure between my hands. I'll just drop that. Oops. And we'll just drop that as well so you guys can see more of me. More of me. Okay, I'm building the ball. And then what I'm going to do is, like I said, I've unlocked my knees, so I'm all kind of spongy and springy. I'm essentially relaxing all my muscles. Now, there's a whole bunch of Tai Chi loosening stretches we could do here, but I'll just keep this real short and sweet. I'm building the ball, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stand up on the balls of my feet, and I'm going to notice how that changes the feeling. So what I'm doing is I'm getting used to this feeling between my hands, and then I'm going to stand up on the balls of my feet. I'm going to see if the feeling or the sensation of the energy changes, because I'm activating, stretching the fascia, which is, I probably need to give more context, but the other one is that if you're doing, like, say, magnetic movements, okay, whether you're doing Kabbalah or Tai Chi, or you're doing, electric, and you're building the ball. So if you're building the ball and you move into an electric and then you move into magnetic, you just start to notice the sensations change. And but what you do is that you have this one thing that's a constant, which is this feeling of energy between your hands. And you change your postures and what you do to see how that sensation changes. And that's just fun to explore. So if you're doing, say, the third book, you might have like a couple of fire letters that you're working with, and, you're correctly venting them and doing things like that. But you might put a D above your head, and then you might change it to a T. And then you'll notice that perhaps some of the fire letters are maybe hotter than others. Maybe some of them are more expansive than others. Maybe some of them are more, this, that, or the other thing. And what you have is, like I said, you have this feeling of energy between your hands. And I remember sitting down, and I won't go into the details of it because for various reasons. But anyway, I switched between a couple of letters, and then I felt this thwop between my hands. It felt like they had big suction cups, and they just, and it went from an electric to a magnetic. And it was a very curious experience. But there's lots of ways to play. You don't even have to get into Kabbalah. But even playing with the electric and the magnetic lines of force, and then just exploring, the sensation, because you're trying to get your mind away from physicality onto the sensation of energy. And yeah, even just changing your posture, like stepping forward, and then pulling. One is like pushing the car, that's activating your electric line. You're pushing forward, you'll notice the muscles that you use. And then when you're pulling on the tug of war rope, you're using a different set of muscles, and you're stretching the fascia in a different way, or the white tissue, or the physical part of the energy body. Nice. Oh, you're very welcome, Ginger, and thank you so much for joining us. Okay, can you quickly talk about the purpose and benefits of skin brushing and pore breathing? Okay, so, yes, absolutely, Will. For you, my bro, of course. And especially since you're a Tai Chi dude. So brushing the skin, right? There's a whole bunch of benefits you can find out. Like the ladies at the naturopath store, at the natural health company store up the road from me, we were talking about skin brushing and the benefits of that. And for one thing, it's exfoliating. So you're getting rid of, it's a different kind of cleaning, I guess, than just wiping yourself with water or hot water and that, right? And your skin. So one of the things I mentioned a fair bit is that if you've ever seen the James Bond movie Goldfinger, and the girl is lying on the bed, she's dead, she's covered in gold paint, and then you watch people who are getting body painted in the real world, the artists will leave a patch of skin on their back so that they can breathe, because our skin does breathe, right? And it's funny because people who go underwater wearing wetsuits, their skin is breathing too. Now, but the body brushing, it's going to open up the pores. It's going to clean them, and it's going to activate the sensation. Because what you're doing is is that you got to remember when you're pore breathing, you're trying to get global feeling activated. So you're not just feeling like between your hands, you're feeling, you know, your neck, your shoulders, your arms, you know, your torso and your legs, your hips, your thighs, all that sort of thing. So what this does is that, you know, if you read the book, he talks about brushing yourself down and then rubbing yourself till you're a bit pink. And what that will do is a bunch of things. First of all, it's going to open the pores up, and which means you can get more flow through. And then it's also going to, and I'm just speaking purely from the Baden point of view. I'm not really going into maybe what the ladies were talking about up the road, because I actually don't recall. But it's, like I said, exfoliating, but it's very freshening. And like I said, you get a feeling all over your body, and you want to be able to maintain that global sensation of flat human. No flat human, global spherical human. You are, it aids with that. So when you get into pore breathing, you'll find that you'll be able to notice it, because there's a roughness that you've just imposed upon yourself. And so from magical training angle, brushing, like I said, will open up the pores. It will give you sensation awareness where previously it might have been harder to do. And as far as the pore breathing goes, like I said, you're learning to breathe globally through the whole exterior surface area of the body. And then you learn how to localize that with segments, because you'll find in the book, it'll tell you to breathe into your, you know, like section off parts of your body, pore breathe into your lungs and that. And you're also learning how to, you will learn how to mentally transfer into those things too. And these exercises all complement each other as well. So hopefully, Will, that answers your question. But yeah, it's really about just a really good, clean, like dry brushing. These are all good things to explore and do them daily, and, you know, make notes of like, you know, when I do this, I notice this. I personally find that having a dry brush and a wash with a face cloth in the morning, like a full body wash, takes a bit of time, but you know, it's even better than a cold shower, you know. And I have hot showers that I then turn real cold at the end, and that's awesome. But there's something about that magic wash when you've blessed the water, and then after you've brushed and you're running through yourself, you know, washing yourself over slowly, methodically, focused, and what you're using the water element to pull off the impurities. It's a focused thing. Whereas in the shower, you might just be like, yeah, it's warm, I'm loving this, and I'm cleaning myself, but you're thinking about other things. Whereas if you've got the cold water on you, especially this time of year in New Zealand, yeah, you'll be focused on that. Okay, everyone. So once again, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. I appreciate you all. Many blessings to you and yours. Thanks for hanging out. Thank you for your questions. I will be back on again. We'll see what happens, probably in the next day or two. Could be even later on today or tomorrow, or who knows. But I'm very grateful for you all. You're a wonderful bunch of peeps. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. Check out the Substack, philrice.substack.com, all in the descriptions below. And this was a lot of fun. And yeah, good to talk about gamings and games and things too, guys. Oh, awesome. Thank you, Fraser Waken. And always Randy Sanderson, always a pleasure, sir. We'll have to catch up for a yarn soon. And Heather, you're always so lovely. Thank you. And lovely to meet you, Fraser Waken. You guys stay well. Just, yeah, many blessings to you and yours. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you all again soon. See you later.